You ever wonder why the biggest companies in the world, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Adobe, Pepsi, YouTube, are all being run not by Americans, but by Indians? Is it just coincidence? Is it just, oh, they're smart? No, they're not. It's not the truth. And once I tell you what's really going on, you'll look at success differently forever. But here's the catch. I'm not going to hand you the answer because that's the mistake most people make. They want shortcuts. But this path, it's earned. Let me take you there one clue at a time. Let's start with the question. They're not changing. Raise your hand if you think being the CEO of Google is about having the highest IQ. Audience murmurs. A few hands go up. Wrong. Sundar Pichai wasn't the smartest kid in the room. They're not changing. Do you think Satya Nadella got Microsoft by being the loudest voice in the room? Audience shakes heads. Nope. So what's going on? Because here's the truth. These people didn't come from billion-dollar families. They didn't go to private schools with golden gates. They came from power cuts, crowded homes. They're changing second-hand books and still. They run the world. So the question we should be asking is, what the hell they learned that we didn't? In India, leadership starts young. It's not in a Harvard case study. They're not changing. It's in the kitchen with no electricity. It's in the bus that never arrives on time. It's in the chaos of everyday survival. They grow up negotiating with auto drivers, juggling languages. They're not getting school with limited resources, dealing with failure and pressure every day. That's not stress. That's training. Imagine you're 14 and your parents expect you to top the class. There's one fan in the room. It's 45 degrees Celsius. Your cousins are running around and yet you still study. That's not normal. That's mental strength. And no one talks about it. Western education is clean, structured, predictable, but the world is NOT. The CEOs coming out of India, they grew up in chaos. They know how to lead when things break. They don't panic. You throw them into a billion-dollar crisis and they breathe. They're not changing because they've lived through worse. So you're saying the stress I'm under right now could be a blessing. Yes. If you let it build you instead of break you. Here's the part nobody teaches in MBA. Success loves hunger. When you grow up in scarcity, you don't complain, you create. You don't wait for chances, you build them. That's the difference. Indian CEOs don't have backup plans. They're all in. And that's where the fire comes from. It's not about outperforming others. It's about never going back to where they started. But I didn't grow up poor. So does that mean I can't have that hunger? No, because hunger is not about money. It's about mission. Here's what shocked the West. These Indian CEOs weren't just tech nerds. They were emotionally intelligent. They could listen. They could connect. They had empathic humility and still delivered results. Why? Because they came from a culture that taught them success without character is failure. That blend of spiritual grounding with professional excellence, that's rare. So what's the real secrets? IQ, it's not being loud, even which college they went to. It's this adaptability, emotional strength, resilient, humility. And you know what? They're not changing. These are not things you're born with. These are trained through discomfort, through daily challenge, through staying in the game longer than others. So if I stop running from discomfort and start leaning into it, I can build this too? Why, yes. That's exactly the point. So next time you see an Indian running a Fortune 500 company, don't say, wow, they're lucky. Say, what did they overcome? What did they refuse to give up on? What can I learn from that? Because the new CEO blueprint, it doesn't wear a suit. It wears scares. And if they can do it from crowded trains and candlelit rooms, so can you just have to start showing up like the CEO of your own life today. Let's be honest. The world didn't expect this. If I told you 20 years ago that the CEOs of Google, Microsoft, IBM, YouTube, MasterCard, Adobe, and even PepsiCo would all be in, you might have laughed or at least raised an eyebrow. But look around today. It's not one or two names. It's an entire list. And here's the true thing. This isn't some random stroke of good luck. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. And patterns don't lie. See, they're not changing. When something happens once, we call it chance. Twice, maybe we're skeptical. But when it keeps happening over and over again, that's not chance. That's a system at work. That's something deeper. But, well, what is it? Because we're not just talking about companies, we're trillion-dollar firms. The kind of positions that require not just intelligence, but endurance, vision, emotional strength, and the ability to steer through storms the public never sees. So how is it that so many Indians are trusted lead those ships? Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to wonder why? Have you asked, what's happening in India that's producing this kind of leadership? It's not the most obvious place. India still battles poverty. There's chaos, infrastructure issues, fierce competition, and intense academic pressure. It's not the polished upbringing people often imagine when think of a CEO. But maybe that's exactly the point. What if I told you that those very struggles, the heat, the hustle, the family expectations, the constant noise, the lack of shortcuts, are not weaknesses? What if they're actually training grounds? Because when you're raised in an environment, when you have to earn every inch of progress, they're not changing. You don't just learn how to work. You learn how to adapt. You learn how to lead not from comfort, but from chaos. And that builds something powerful. There's this myth in the West that success comes from calm, from clarity, from perfect conditions. But look at the most resilient people in the world. They were born in pressure. They've learned to solve problems while still inside the storm. And Indian leaders, they've lived in that storm their whole lives. Now, I know what you're thinking. Maybe it's just because there are a lot of Indians in tech. Maybe it's education. Maybe it's just population numbers. Sure, that explains one or two stories, but not this many, not this consistently, not across industries, borders, continents. It's more than that. It's culture. It's mindset. It's emotional wiring. It's the invisible discipline you build when nothing is handed to waking up at 5 a.m. Not because it's trendy, but because it's necessary. It's failing once, twice. They're not changing 10 times and still showing up. It's a pattern that's been built, not born. And the real question is, are we paying attention to it? Are we studying it? Are we learning from it? Because success always leaves clues. And this pattern right here, it's a trail, a roadmap, not just for Indians, for anyone willing to learn from it. So before you dismiss it as a fluke, stop. Look closer. This isn't an accident. It's the result of something very real. And by the end of this journey, I'm going to show you what that something is. But not yet. Because first, I need to unlearn everything you thought you knew about success. They're not changing. Only then will you be ready to see what's been hiding in plain sight all along. There's a curriculum no one talks about. It's not in Harvard classrooms. You won't find it in Stanford case studies. It's never printed on certificates or plastered across LinkedIn profiles, but it's real. It's the reason a kid from Chennai can end up running Google. It's the reason a young boy from Hyderabad, they're not changing who used to wait in line for drinking water, now runs Microsoft. You see, in India, long before someone becomes a CEO, they've already passed through the most brutal, most brilliant school on the planet. But nobody calls it school. It's the school of survival, of restraint, of patience, of pushing forward when everything around you screams to stop. And the classroom, it's the home with 5 people in one room. It's the street where the traffic never stops. It's the college exam with a 1% acceptance rate. It's the tea stall where you see your parents breaking their backs just to send you to tuition. That's the real training. A 12-year-old in India learns how to manage expectations like a corporate manager. A 16-year-old learns how to fail an entrance exam, cry for 10 minutes, and get back to work the next day like nothing happened. They're not changing. A 20-year-old juggles college, part-time tutoring, cooking for the family, and building dreams bigger than the village they live in. This is the invisible curriculum. And it's shaping world leaders without anyone noticing. They're not changing because while others are learning about theory, Indian kids are living inside a pressure cooker. And here's the kicker. They're not just surviving, they're learning how to stay calm inside that pressure. You think crisis management is taught in boardrooms? No, it's taught when the electricity goes out during your exam prep and you still have to show up and ace it. You think resilience is a mindset course? No, it's what you build when rejection becomes normal. When try again next year is not a failure, but a routine. And when these kids grow up and they walk into Western companies, something strange happens. They don't panic in chaos. They don't fold under deadlines. They don't need motivation to show up because they've spent their entire lives in the exact conditions that most people try to avoid. They're not changing. They don't flinch at difficult conversations. They don't resist extreme worse. They know how to figure it out, even when no clear solution exists. And you know what the most fascinating part is? They don't even see it as special. To them, this kind of discipline, the kind of mental toughness, this kind of patience, it's just life. But when the world starts to realize that this mindset, this invisible curriculum is what turns everyday humans into unstoppable leaders, it changes the game because now we stop asking, where did this person study? And start asking, well, it's not just the injury. It's the decades of mental, emotional, and cultural sharpening that happened in the background, away from applause, away from cameras, away from LinkedIn. And that's why this matters. Because the leaders coming out of India today, they're not manufactured. They're forged. They're not changed. They've been carrying pressure for so long that pressure now feels normal. And in a world that's addicted to comfort, addicted to shortcuts, addicted to 30-second motivation, that kind of grit doesn't just lead companies. It changes them. So the next time you wonder how so many Indian minds ended up leading the world, remember it wasn't a classroom. It was a life. And they passed with flying colors. They're not changing. If you like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and share with your friend. Thanks